This is the Pipkin and Turnbull show coming to you this January 28th, 2020. January 2020 will be over next week. That's a fact, Jamie.
Yes.
I know you're laughing at me, but
hmm
that's a fact. No more January 2020. It's over. It's donezo.
It's over.
Uh,
Yep.
got a good show for you guys tonight. Just we're excited about what's happening this week, and just have some things to talk about. Jamie, what we got going on tonight?
All right. Tonight we're going to we lost a legend today or last weekend. Kobe Bryant. We're going to talk about him and his legacy. And then we're gonna switch it up and we're gonna look at the Super Bowl. We're gonna do some picks and just some last minute thoughts on that. And then last, we're going to rank our top five Super Bowls from the year 2000 to the 2019. And so it's gonna be a good it's gonna be a good show. So leading up, Kobe Bryant, Caleb, what are your thoughts on that whole situation, man?
Yeah, I mean, me and Jamie kind of pre-show were discussing kind of the show and just where life was at and just stuff like that, and just you know, for me, uh, it's affected me oddly enough. It's hitting me a little harder than I would ever expecting it would be or it would.
Mm.
Um, I growing up, uh, uh, I had an older friend. His name was Spencer Daniels, and he was kind of the first one who was like really into basketball in my life, really into NBA basketball. And there was two posters that I vividly remembering him having, and he had a poster of Michael Jordan and a poster of Kobe Bryant. And so for me growing up, I knew like all the starters for the Bulls, like everybody else did, and I knew who Kobe Bryant was. Um,
Mm.
and for us, for Jamie and I, growing up, like Kobe, in that time span, when you're talking about kids, 8 to 16, in that time range, like Kobe was like the superstar that we grew up with. And LeBron started to come on the scene and everything like that, but Kobe was kind of the framework of for our generation, kind of just seeing these superstars starting to rise, and Kobe was a part of that, and all the other superstars that came after that. uh yeah, it's horrific, man. um it's tough when you lose. There was 3 13-year-olds on that helicopter. There was 5 families involved as well. It's such a routine day. It's such a out of the ordinary. Can't imagine that it would happen type thing. Um, and it's just hard. Like I can't explain. Like it's so out of the realm of possibility of it even happening. That we were sitting Sunday having lunch with some friends, and pops up on CNN, does a news blurb of Kobe Bryant's dead at 41. And it says helicopter
Mm.
crash, and you're just the whole entire restaurant, man. It was so quiet. Like everybody in that restaurant for a good 30 seconds, nobody said anything. Like everybody was in
Yeah.
stunned silence, because like worldwide, that's Kobe had an effect worldwide. It wasn't just an American, you know, type type superstar. He was a worldwide phenomenon. Um,
Mm.
and what's crazy is I think, you know, I I think we all were enjoying the maturing Kobe Bryant. Like, there was stuff in his past like any of us, but we really start, by the end of his career, and now what starting to really take hold of his being a father. Um, I was excited to what he was talking about, like in the film world, and he wrote a novel, and he won a
Mm,
he won an Academy Award. There was just we knew that Kobe wasn't done, and we were for me. Um, he was also kind of a nerd. The things that he liked, which nobody
mm,
really thinks about, but like. And I thought about that too, man. I was excited to see what Kobe was going to come out with, and so,
mm,
um, man, it's just I it's kind of like all the NBA players. Sometimes it's just like why do we play these games? Like in the end, what really does matter, And so,
yeah.
a lot of announcers, and a lot of players were kind of feeling that when they heard the news on Sunday, And so, the Lakers went ahead and they canceled their game tonight. Because they knew that they wanted to get something to tribute Kobe, and they just weren't ready, and they were, and so that and a lot of like you and I talked about, Jimmy Kimmel didn't do a show; he just did a tribute to Kobe, and so um,
Yeah.
yeah, um, those are kind of my first thoughts. Jamie, how did it? What do you got?
Um, I mean, yeah, I basically mirror everything you said. Kobe was like everybody loved the Bulls back in the '90s. If you were a '90s kid and you were fortunate enough to watch the Bulls play, everybody loved the Bulls. Especially our age because we got to see Space Jam, and
Yeah,
we everybody loved the Bulls. Everybody loved Michael, but everybody loved Kobe. And what he was able to do the game. I'm pretty sure I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he was the last player to um, get drafted out of high school, or that might have been LeBron. But he didn't play college. He went straight from high school to the NBA, and he was a star immediately. And it just everything he was doing in the NBA, and then like you said, everything he was planning on doing outside the NBA, and we also I feel like we need to talk about Gianna, his daughter. She was coming along, gone way too soon. Had such a bright future ahead of her. Everyone kept saying because Kobe had what people call the player's curse, and so he just kept popping out girls, and everyone's like, when are you gonna have a boy to carry on your legacy? And Gianna was quick to say, I am the legacy. And she had such a bright future ahead of her. And, Kobe, whenever I stopped and really started thinking about this, he was such a great dad. And, I was thinking about like, what were their last moments like? What were when they knew that they were getting ready to crash? All I can think of is Kobe just grabbing his daughter and just trying to protect her, and it's just sad. It really is. It, it's hard to just put it into words, what we've what's happened, and so, um, yeah, I felt like we need to talk about it tonight because I feel like we were doing you guys a disservice if we didn't. Um, you know, but yeah, his legacy is gonna live on.
yeah,
And that's
and
definitely not gonna die anytime
In
soon.
Kobe fashion, he'd want to see these athletes, go out like, and
Hmm.
LeBron, has a new chip on his shoulder. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Lakers after this. I think it'll, you know, it you know, it. I think it'll inspire them even more. Maybe this is what pushes them, to a championship, which would be pretty special. But man,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a tough loss, and sometimes, I realize that, when a superstar dies or a famous person dies, people are like, well, all these other things are happening in the world, and I've never really agreed with people who who tend to think that logic, but like in all tragedy is
Yeah.
tragedy, man, and just
Yeah.
it's you just grow up watching this guy, and you just um you appreciate his drive, you know, and
Mhm.
so you know
Yeah.
uh there'll never be somebody quite like Kobe Bryant, man, and one with Shaq and Kobe, it's just it's so special, man. Anyway,
Yeah.
so uh our thoughts and prayers and everything else with the family, and um,
Yes.
just yeah, uh, it's just tough, and I know a lot of people are struggling with it. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but lost a legend, man, lost a legend for sure, and
We did.
but he'll be remembered, man. I mean, no, there'll never be another Kobe, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, so Super Bowl. We got the Chiefs. Let me see that. You got that AFC. Well, let's see. Let's see that
Yeah.
AFC champion right there, man.
Yeah.
Super
Uh
Bowl 54 happening this Sunday in Miami, Florida, happening at Hard Rock Stadium. Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it?
yes.
Yeah, that's what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, they're going back to our vacation spot, Jamie. That was
Yeah.
so great. Uh, um, so I keep thinking like, man, I I just keep thinking how much I like the Chiefs in this matchup, man. I know San Fran's got their defense, and I know that we both have been kind of rooting for the Chiefs, but I just like it's the toughest thing is just that defense matchup. But offensively, the Chiefs' defense matches up really well. I think,
Mhm.
with what Spagnolia does, trying to do his adjustments and things like we talked about last week. But man, it's just it's just even with great defenses, the Chiefs have something special almost at every position. And like I said last week, I really feel like even Damian Williams is starting to come on here. So
Yeah.
it's such a hard thing to do. Any defense would tell you if you're trying to cover, you know, five special players at one time. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's still my initial reaction. I'm trying to, but at the same time, we both know it'll be a closer game. It's not gonna be a runaway. I mean, it's gonna come down to the fourth quarter. I think. I mean, it's every drive time. I would be shocked if it's a blowout. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening at all.
No, I think it's gonna be a close game. I feel like San Francisco's, like we talked about last week. San Francisco's defensive line I think is one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, if not the best defensive line in the NFL. And their secondary is good, and the reason their defensive line is so good is because their secondary is good. Because if you can lock down those wide receivers and tight ends, your defense is gonna be able to get home. And so that defense is top notch. And but the Chiefs are special, and it's almost unfair with all the weapons they have, and for a defense to try to figure out how to stop
Yeah.
that, it's almost unfair for them. And so I've been listening to people talking about this game and what their predictions are. Most are saying a close game. Some are saying the Chiefs are going to blow them out. I've seen one Trent Dilfer say that he doesn't think it's going to be a game at all for the Chiefs. That he thinks San Francisco is going to blow the Chiefs out, which I don't see happening. But yeah, I think we're gonna
They're
rank
two.
our top
Yeah.
Super Bowls, but this one might take number one depending on how it
Yeah.
goes later.
The only reason it's not going to be a blowout is the reason San Francisco's been winning, in my opinion, is how fundamentally
Hmm.
sound they are. Like they've
Yeah,
got their weakness, talent wise weaknesses, but fundamentally, just the way that they go game to game, the way that they prepare this whole season, game to
Mm.
game, week to week, fundamentally
Yeah.
is a very strong team. And so that's where it gets hard to blow out fundamentally strong teams. Like just when you're able to win on the line. I mean, line play does matter. Kind of like
Yeah.
what you were saying with the defensive line. Um, and that's where the O line for the Chiefs are going to have to come up big. And and you could say a couple of
Hmm.
their pieces on the O line for the Chiefs may be their biggest weakness. Um, you
Hmm.
know, it's just I it would be honestly it'd be shocking if it was a blowout for either team. Um,
Hmm.
it's just I personally just I don't see that happening. Um,
Hmm.
to me, the most I don't know. I honestly think if it's a 10-point margin, that'll be a lot. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
I I've got my pick at a 4 point margin.
yeah,
You know, um, it's gonna be a good game. I just have a really good feeling that it's going to be a back and forth game. But to argue to the point that it could be a blowout, like the Chiefs have proven, you know, they scored like 7 touchdowns in a row against Houston, and then they went on a tear against Tennessee. So like the Chiefs are their offense is built like they can put back to back to back to back to back touchdowns together, and the defense has proven that they can stop an offense, and so if you let the Chiefs get confident in what they can do, it it,
well, it's
it
just
could end up being a blowout.
well, I mean, but you look at that and you just think about the adjustments though for Tennessee and Houston. It just wasn't there. They panicked. You go back and watch
Yeah.
those games, and from what we've seen, because this whole season I've doubted the 49ers, but the reason I still come back to that they have just been solid. They don't really make mistakes. They don't seem to panic. They try
Mm-hmm.
to stay within their style. Um, it's just I yeah, but I do agree with where you're coming from, but you just have to sense that they're coming. I mean, they know that they're the
Yeah.
underdog. They know that the Chiefs are going to be favored. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they've played the whole season. They've played this whole
Yeah.
season that underdog role, and
Mm-hmm.
I just yeah. So I mean, just I guess the scoring pick for me. I would say uh like 38-32 Chiefs.
38-32.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Who's your
Touchdown
MVP?
for um probably Mahomes or with a with a wild card being possibly, I know this is crazy, maybe Travis Kelsey, but I'm also thinking Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, because if it's the Chiefs, I would be surprised if it was a defensive player. But
Yeah.
most likely be Mahomes with the possibility of Kelsey. But you know what we talked about was the whole Sammy Watkins factor. I think that whole factor is kind of underplayed too. And
Yeah.
so, you think about when Santonio Holmes won MVP. Hines Ward was the number one wide receiver. So
Well.
um,
Yeah.
it could be something like that. So I don't know. So what are your
Hmm.
predictions?
I have the Chiefs 28, San Francisco 24. I think it's gonna be. I think the Chiefs will establish themselves in the fourth quarter and go ahead. Um, I This game's gonna be crazy. it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a back and forth. Um, and as for MVP, I can't. You almost can't vote against Patrick Mahomes because you know he's gonna put up numbers and you know he's gonna do something crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but in my little scenario that I've got playing in my head, I'm gonna say Tyrann Mathieu is gonna get the MVP. Um, whether it be a forced fumble that seals it, whether it be an interception that seals it at the end.
I had
I
the funny
think,
thing was I had a
uh,
feeling you may say that. To throw it out there.
yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna roll with Tyrann Mathieu as the Super Bowl MVP,
Oh man, he gonna have
and
to do a
so
lot, man. It's gonna be a lot.
maybe, maybe, but I think he'll win it if the Niners are driving in the fourth quarter to do the go ahead touchdown, and Tyron can seal it with a forced fumble and an interception. Man, you almost got to give it to him.
Yeah.
So
What'd you say?
that's my pick.
28-24 Chiefs? That's your score?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yes. By the way, in my background is my moving boxes for this weekend. So there you go. We're both.
mine are over here.
Yeah. I got fashioning some sort of background this week with some cardboard. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a little bit of a conversation. I would think who who is the better tight end, George Kittle or
Ooh.
Travis Kelsey? Let's get into that because
See.
we got a minute still left on this, and I've always forgotten to ask where we sit on that. So I pose
See.
that. Where are you at with that?
All right. So Kelsey's put together 4,000 yard seasons, back to back to back to back. I think I got all back to back to backs there. Um, no tight end in the NFL has ever done that. He leads Kettle in uh, yards this year by like 100 or 200 yards. Not very much. Kettle is when it comes to catching. I think Kelsey gets the edge because I don't think there's a better red zone tight end. Um, and Mahomes and him proved that against the Texans. Um, Kittle though he can block, and he enjoys blocking. Kelsey kind of lacks there. He can lay a couple of good blocks. There was one a couple years ago when they were playing the Seattle Seahawks, and he laid Cam Chancellor out, laid him out cold. Um, so I don't think he gets enough credit there. Oh man, I can't believe I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say Kittle, whatever you say his name, is the better tight end. I can't believe I'm saying that, but and Kelsey's never been voted All Pro. At least I don't think so. Kittle has. So
Ah, I never knew that. That's interesting.
yeah. So I can't believe I'm saying it. I feel like I need to, I don't know, play an angry game of Madden and get Kelsey like 400 yards receiving and like 80 touchdowns in a game. But yeah, just because he does more, I guess. Where Kelsey's basically a big wide receiver and he's not really asked to block like a typical tight end. Um, Kittle is just I think overall
What's hard about, I guess,
better.
the comparison is they both are extremely good in the system that they're trying to play in.
Yeah,
I think that, and man, I'm still sitting here debating back and forth because Kelsey to me is a way better route runner. The
yes.
way he on that fourth down, when you think about that fourth down play he had against the Texans,
Hmm.
he was able to basically he had a double team and was with his footwork was able to kind of maneuver past him to get that conversion. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And that's what's tough. But like you said, going back to the blocking, I mean, that's part of the tight end. Where the great quote is the wide receivers and the linemen won't claim them.
Yeah.
You don't so um man, I'm trying to think of where I fall into this. I know I asked the question and you picked Kittle.
I
Man,
try
I
to remain unbiased on this
no, I
show.
know, I know. It's tough because they are both. I think they're a lot. I like you said. I think Kelsey's blocking is a little undervalued, but he does
Mhm.
miss them. We have seen him
Yes.
whiff on blocks. Kittle, I don't know if I've ever seen him whiff on a block or anything like that.
Not often.
You know, I'm gonna give the edge to Kittle, and the only reason I say that is the only thing I don't appreciate about Kelsey. But what I will say about this year, he's gotten a lot better about. In Kelsey's past, he was very much a selfish, like get penalties, get huge, calls against him where there really was no need for him to do some of the things that he did. I
Yep.
would also say though that this year he's been much better about that, and I'm sure
Hmm.
he knows that he's cost them a couple games.
Yes.
And so that's my edge,
Hmm.
because I'm almost willing to, because footwork and route running is such an undervalued asset, that's becoming more and more appreciated because a lot of what we
Hmm.
see in these wide receivers, especially we ask why is Antonio Brown, and you just go back and watch him because it's the footwork. You
Yeah.
watch Sammy Watkins, his route running,
Hmm.
Tyreek is he's a speedster, man. He can go all over the place, but
Yeah.
he would be by far, if he worked on some of his route running and his footwork, he would be the best wide receiver in the NFL, I think. But
Yeah.
there's times even where we saw in this last game against Houston where he kind of misses on his routes, where Patrick Mahomes is like, I
Hmm.
just need you to keep going, man. Like don't pull
Yeah.
up on your route, man. Feel
Yeah.
that happen. So the edge goes to Kittle just because I'm blaming it a little bit on Kelsey's attitude at times, which I think is
Yeah.
fair. Is fair to
Mhm.
you know when you're considering all of it, but they're extremely. They're probably the closest that a very good comparison. They're very close
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
thinking about matchups, because I sat here and was thinking about where Gronk was at, and Gronk was just an unstoppable force just because of his size.
Hmm.
Um, so, but they are the best tight ends in the league, to
Yeah.
me, especially this year. So, but yeah, I give the edge to Kittle a little bit. So, all
Yeah.
right. So moving into the our team Pipkin and team Turnbull top 5 picks. We thought about doing it all Super Bowls, but me and Jamie have had this conversation. We were like, and we've thought about it in the past when we've done our top 5 picks. We've been like, we've given the edge to players that we've personally seen play. And I think
Yeah.
for this time, and we'll probably definitely revisit the top 5 Super Bowls ever. But I
Yeah.
kind of wanted us to focus on the ones where we could kind of like remember, because with Super Bowls, some of the hard things is like we could go back, look at the past, look at the highlights, look at the stats. We know who's gonna win, but
Hmm.
some of the moments that we have just watching the Super Bowl is part of it. From the halftime show to the commercials, which we won't get into, but you could add that all into it,
Yeah.
for perspective. And so really, so what we're looking at is kind of where we're at in the 2000s. So from 2000 to right now, what are the top 5 Super Bowls? And as we both started looking into it, even if we made a top 5 list, the crazy thing is that over these past 20 years, we've actually had some of the best Super Bowls out of the
Yes.
54 or the 53 that we that have been played. And so I don't know where do you
Mhm.
think what did you think about all that?
Oh man, yeah, because I was looking because when we first started talking about doing this a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, that's 53 Super Bowls I'm gonna have to look at, remember stats and all that stuff, and so when we talked about it today, and you're like, let's just do the last 20 years, I'm just like, that is so much easier. And so, and I was going through the list, and I had all a bunch that was like, oh, that was good. But once I started breaking it down, and I'm like, oh, I play. I remember Super Bowl for this reason, and so I was just like, yep, that's definitely in there. Oh, that's definitely in there. And so I found I enjoyed it a lot more doing games that I knew that we saw. That I remember sitting on the couch going, oh, this is great. This is a
Right.
really good game.
Yeah.
And so I found I appreciated the list more and enjoyed putting it together because, it was just fun to do to remember back to
Right.
watching that game.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I
So
mean,
we
you can
got
do
a little
yours
yeah.
first. And
I'm gonna do an honor. Hey, let's do an honorable mention. Let's throw in for a bonus for our awesome fans.
oh,
We're gonna. I know I'm gonna catch you off guard. I know,
oh
but
no.
I just I'm I because was a big struggle for me to leave this Super Bowl off, and it
Mm,
was. I'm trying to remember the number. I can't remember the number, but my honorable mention when I was looking back that I really kind of wanted to put in, which sometimes people forget how good the Baltimore versus San Francisco Super Bowl was. For
mm,
everything that it had, Baltimore went out on a big early first half lead. They have the
mm,
22-minute power outage, which was fun to just kind of tune in and watch. And then you got to eat some food and talk with people, And so I remember all
yeah,
that. But then the second half, the 49ers actually almost came back and won. And so that
yeah,
game was like 35-32. So it ended up being a very close Super Bowl. So that one was the
yeah.
hard one that I didn't put in. Did you have any like that? If you did it, that's okay. We can go to just the top five.
I guess I will go with. Make sure I didn't put it on my list. I'll go with the shoulda shoulda ran it Super Bowl. Seattle versus the Patriots. Seattle was driving for their go ahead. They're at like the 1 or 2 yard line, and they chose to pass instead of running it with Marshawn Lynch. And the Patriots won their, I don't know, 80th Super Bowl, it seems. Um,
That's right.
so
Their 80th one
I
out of
like I can't
53.
remember I can't remember which Super Bowl it was, but I just remember that being a really
I
good
may
game.
be able to help you with that one.
All
All
right.
right, so leading at number five was the one that Jamie just mentioned. My number five Super Bowl is Patriots versus Seattle. Super Bowl 50, or I'm sorry. So it would be, dude, I put it in Times New Roman. So it would be, oh, shoot. Uh,
To say
30.
the Roman numeral.
No, I'm gonna read this. Shoot. Oh man. Oh, it's oh, I'm having a mental breakdown right now, man. It would be 44. Yeah. Super Bowl 44. 54. Anyways,
Sure
it
about
was the
that?
Super Bowl. It happened. Um,
Yeah.
I'm having a mental breakdown. Um, that's why you write out the numbers and not the Roman numerals. But I'm usually good with
Mm,
Roman numerals, man. Oh,
yeah.
that's horrible.
I didn't write out the numbers. I just did Roman numerals, and I'm not going to try to pretend to read those either. So.
We're good, man. We're gonna. Oh man, I'm gonna get so harsh comments, man, about that. But yeah, kind of what you were saying. What I loved about that game was it was such an even matchup the entire game. The momentum was back and forth. You had Seattle's defense, and then the infamous is what we talked about for months. What is still remembered now is why didn't you give Marshawn the ball? Because there were some that were
Hmm.
for it, some that were against it, um, and 49. That's the Roman numeral 49. There it is. I just got it. My brain just clicked. I looked down at it. It was 49. Okay, so I got it. It's Super Bowl 49. That's when it happened. So that's my number five. What's your number five?
All right, so I've got Super Bowl XXX4, whatever that one is. It was the year 2000. Um, Rams Titans. Rams 23, Titans 16.
34.
I remember this game really well. The greatest show on turf. Dick Vermeil. I remember it coming down to the last second and Steve McNair rushing, or no, he passed the ball, and the guy got to the 1 yard line, stretched out, and he wasn't close enough, and the Rams win with that stop. And I remember it. That was Kurt Warner's only Super Bowl win. That was Dick Vermeil's second. I think that would have been his first because he never won one with the Eagles. And so I remember that game. I would have been in about second grade, second or third grade during that game, and but I remember it very vividly. Um, and so yeah, that's my number five.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so moving to number four, I had the Saints versus Colts, and that was Super Bowl 43. And so this one was, excuse me, 44, Super Bowl 44. Um, this this one was kind of interesting because, you know, you just had Katrina had happened, I think 2 years before. The team had kind of rebuilt. Just kind of the backstory to the Super Bowl was what everybody was talking about. And so the score doesn't really show you how close this game was. Early on, the Colts kind of looked like they had all the momentum was kind of going on to their favor going into
Mm-hmm.
halftime. And so one of the biggest calls that has ever been made in a Super Bowl was actually done by Sean Payton, where he went for the onside kick. And so the Saints actually they opened up the second half with an onside kick, pick it up, and they went and scored a touchdown. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
really when things started to shift, and people are like, "Hey, these Saints may actually beat the Colts because the Colts had a phenomenal team that year." So the Saints kind
Mm-hmm.
of went into that Super Bowl as underdogs. And so, like I said, that the score didn't really dictate what the game ended up being. Just thinking about all the storylines and just was super excited for the Saints winning that matchup. So yeah, for me, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
remembering all that. Yeah, I'm gonna put the Saints versus Colts at number four.
Okay. For me, I've got Super Bowl XL2. Giants 17, Patriots 14, 2008. This game will always be remembered as the David Tyree helmet catch. And with Eli just retiring, I had to put this on the list. He gets a lot of flack for his last couple of years, but people, he beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl, and this him getting out of the pocket and breaking all those tackles just to complete this catch to David Tyree, who, by the way, David Tyree, after that catch that pretty much sealed the Super Bowl for the Giants, never, to my knowledge, caught another catch in the NFL. So for that being his final catch in the NFL, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't really beat
I
that.
guess I
And
never really
so,
thought about that.
um,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, and Patriots, anytime the Patriots lose in the Super Bowl is a good day. and worthy of being on the list.
That's right.
So that is my number 4.
Yeah. All right. So moving to number 3. Jamie, I'm going to let you go first for number 3.
Okay. For Super Bowl, for number 3, I have Super Bowl L1. I just talked about how the Patriots losing is great and should always be on a list, but for this one, Super Bowl L1, Patriots 34, Falcons 28. I put this one on my list because of the Patriots' comeback in this one. They Falcons were winning 28-10 at one point, and then the Patriots just come roaring back and somehow win this game. And if Tom Brady's legacy wasn't already one of the best in the NFL at that point, it definitely over flooded after that comeback. So yeah, I've got that one as my number
Yeah.
3.
I think my biggest problem with that is that the Patriots won. I think they would.
Yeah, I know.
I think I would have. It would have been on my list if the Falcons would have won. And I was
Yeah,
looking at that game, and I just remember being like, because in the middle of the third quarter, you knew the Patriots were going to come back and win the game. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you remember that at all, but that's why I didn't put it higher. Because you're right. You're
yeah.
like, that was the Super Bowl that went into overtime, and this should be higher. But during the
Hmm.
third quarter, you knew it was over. Like, you knew that they
Yeah,
were going to come, and then you were sitting there being like, how do they blow a 28-3 lead?
yeah,
And with all the talent, like the Falcons got talent, man, that year. Like
yeah.
Julio Jones,
Hmm.
Mohamed Sanu,
They had Roddy White. I'm pretty sure they
yeah,
still had Roddy White.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, Roddy White was still there. And you got Matty Ice, and then had a pretty good defense that year too.
Yeah.
Like man, you
Yep.
just really like. And do you remember the owner? I forget his name. But the owner is like he actually came down to the field and was like ready for like the
Ar-
win.
Ar- Arthur Blanche, I
Yeah,
think's their owner's name. Arthur
yeah.
Blanche.
So he was down there on the field. Yeah. So that's the reason it wasn't on my list, just because that's yeah. And it may have should have been, but I didn't put it on there. But yeah, you're right. It
Yeah.
was still a good Super Bowl, even though I
Mm.
probably didn't put it because I was bitter. Um,
I'm unbiased.
that's
I
right.
try to be,
So
at least.
yeah, number 3, I had Philadelphia versus the Patriots. You had the Philly special, Super
Hmm.
Bowl 52. Yeah, and that was it, man. That the Philly special, man. It truly was special. Um,
Yeah.
to do it with Nick Foles. The Eagles came out of nowhere that year. It's kind of the scary thing. It's a little bit kind of the San Francisco situation. It's like, wow, well, we wouldn't have expected San Fran to be here.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
all could have maybe predicted the Chiefs, but I could have never predicted the 49ers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just they didn't have Carson Wentz. He went down, and then Nick Foles throughout the playoffs, they just kept winning, man.
Mm.
And then they were able to do enough on defense, had enough offense, had some special things happen in that game. Like I said,
Mm.
capped off with that Philly special, and they had to do some. There was other big momentum things as well. Oddly enough, that was also one of Tom Brady's like better Super Bowl just stats wise. But that was like one Super Bowl where you just really felt like Brady was trying to do it all on his own. Just trying to keep the
Hmm.
team going, trying to make sure that
Yeah.
they get like he was the only one who like seemed to want to be there. Which was weird, which was odd. Um.
Yeah.
So I mean, so yeah, so I mean the Philly special. I love that play. I loved how it all worked out. You know, great Super Bowl, and I just appreciate Jamie and I were both Christ followers, and we appreciate like for me, I appreciate where Nick Foles relationship with God and that whole team's
Hmm.
kind of the relate. I don't know. Do you remember going to Stronger Men? There's a men's conference in Springfield that we go to, and some of the Eagles players were part of that, so that was cool.
Yes.
Just hearing how
Yeah.
much that camaraderie around God helped them. And anyways, all that
Yeah.
tied in, like I was like, man, it turned out to be a pretty cool Super Bowl. And my wife's family, and she is an Eagles fan, or they're Eagles fans, so it was special for
Yeah.
them too. All right, so that was
Okay.
number three. Number two, one that you've already mentioned was the Patriots versus Giants, Super
Mm.
Bowl 42.
Mm-hmm.
The David Tyree with Eli Manning. Because here's the deal. Um, this is the undefeated Patriots. When you looked at their stacked team, a team that had Randy Moss on it, a team that had rolled through the NFL that season, a team that
Yeah.
had all the tools to win. But it came down to that D line of the Giants just outworking everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
with Michael Strahan, some other guys, Justin Tuck, I think, was there at that time,
Yeah.
just really working that old line they hadn't faced a defense that really challenged them, that really put Brady on the ground. And
Yep.
so, Plaxico Burress with that big touchdown catch at the end to seal the deal,
Yeah.
and that was part of that David Tyree drive. Before, unfortunately, Plaxico decided to shoot himself accidentally in the hip. That was before that happened. So,
Yeah.
so it just, yeah, I just, you well, I'll never forget that catch. You'll never forget that moment. You'll never forget where you were sitting at. I was at the
Mm-hmm.
fellowship hall at Ashgrove Assembly of God, watching it with everybody. We were all Giants fans except for one family, and we all went nuts, all went crazy, and yeah, and so yeah, it was just a cool Super Bowl, man, to be a part of, to
Yeah.
see that happen, to see how that went down. Number two for you.
Number two for me, you've already mentioned it. It was Super Bowl L2, the Philly special. Man, Eagles 41, Patriots 33. I put this at number two because of it being the Eagles, and winning their first Super Bowl. That was just a special moment, and for who they beat, you know, um, makes it even better. And how they did it, going in with their backup quarterback, Nick Foles, who had jumped from, the Eagles to the Rams, and then after the Rams, thought he was going to retire, came to Kansas City, and then went back to the Eagles. No one would have thought in a million years that Foles would lead their team to a Super Bowl, and especially a win. And then he wins the Super Bowl MVP. So
Yeah.
I thought it was an easy choice for number two, definitely. But yeah, so that's my number two.
All right, and for our number one picks,
I feel like we have the same
we
one.
probably do. And I'm gonna carry on my rant from last week against Jamie. No, no. So number one Super Bowl, and would still be on my number one Super Bowl of all time that I've ever seen, still to this day, and I'd have a hard time seeing if that ever changed because I am a Steelers fan. Super Bowl 43, Steelers versus Cardinals. I had Jamie in my house with my family, and he goes against the family while he's watching it on our couch, eating our food, sitting there, being Jamie. Don't go against the family, man. Anyways, I'm not bitter. I've forgiven him. Anyways, yeah, crazy game, man. And there's some lists they were like, this game, like, it wasn't even in the top 10 in people's lists. I'm like, did you even watch the same game? Like, good
Nah.
grief, man. Like, that game was so back and forth, man. Huge
Mm-hmm.
plays, like, you think the Cardinals have this huge momentum going into halftime. James Harrison says nope, steps in
Mm.
front of that pass, runs it back 99 yards, and scores a touchdown right at the end of half. You got
Yeah,
Larry.
he's breathing hard after
I
that.
tell you what, man. Tell you what, I would have been dead. I'd have been gone. That would have been my last moment on Earth.
Yep.
Goodbye, deuces. Like, it was
Yep.
fun. I got my team the touchdown, but I'm going home, man. It's like, yeah. And but Larry Fitzgerald crossed the slant, man. He's got a minute 30 that he picks up a 50-yard touchdown there. But was it
Mhm.
over, Jamie? Was it over?
No,
No, it
oh,
wasn't
one of the
over.
best touchdown catches of my life that I
So,
saw.
but what
San Antonio
yeah,
Holmes.
man. But the thing that led to it was, I don't know if you remember, if you go back to watch that drive, go back and watch this drive on YouTube. It's phenomenal. Um,
Yeah,
they converted like a third and like 15, and San Antonio Holmes was like part of it, and so
yeah,
there was so many times during that last drive where you're like, man, this is gonna end. There's no way that they're scoring here. Like, this is gonna end on a turnover. Like, there's no
yeah.
way that they're getting down there and scoring this. And what do you know? Antonio Holmes barely taps his 2 feet in there. Just get that, man. Um, Dude, the whole game was just phenomenal. I just remember
Hmm.
that, like, the Super Bowl commercial. I This was Jamie. This was the one I actually remember. The Super Bowl commercials. The Super Bowl commercials were also really good that year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if you remember
I
that.
don't remember any
I
of them.
remember the Super Bowl commercials were actually really good that year. They The Betty White Snickers commercial was one of them. You remember that one?
Uh, no.
The one where, like, they're playing football and Betty White's out there and she gets tackled, and then it's like, you need to get a Snickers. And then she turns into a young guy and after eating the Snickers, and it was great. Really good commercials. And well, I don't know for sure. It may have been the Rolling Stones that year. It was either the Who or the Rolling Stones. So they actually had a pretty decent halftime show. Um
Yeah.
so so yes, so, and like I said, I'm a big Steelers fan, so obviously meant a lot to see them win, even though there's a reason why, and it's a pretty decent reason why Jamie was against the family, but it still doesn't excuse him. But Jamie, who is your number one pick?
I mean, Super Bowl XL 3 43, as in Troy Polamalu's football number, one of the greatest safeties to ever play the game. But I just remember this game being back and forth the whole time and seeing some stuff like San Antonio's catch there where he literally toe tapped it. But I I was pulling for the Cardinals because of Kurt Warner and because of Larry Fitzgerald. You
That's
know,
right.
if anybody, I feel like I feel so bad for Larry because Larry, I think, will go down as arguably the only wide receiver behind um, Jerry Rice, um, and he'll probably never win a Super Bowl, which I feel so bad for him for that because if there's any player that deserves one, it's him, and he was really close in Super Bowl 43. I I just this whenever we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, making this list, I knew what my number one was, and as I was looking at different lists today, yeah, this one is not on anyone's list, and I find that so crazy that
Yeah,
it's not, for multiple reasons, because the Cardinals went up with what less than 3 minutes left in the
it
game
was a minute
for
30. It was like a
yeah.
minute 30 left in the
Yeah,
game.
and then the Steelers come back and score and win, and like, yeah, you've got the James Harrison interception, 99-yard interception. You just had all these different things that I don't think there's a Super Bowl, at least I've seen, that beats this. You know. Now talk to me after this Sunday, and I might
Right.
have a new number one, but um, that's just my bias coming in though. But I will always remember this Super Bowl. I've actually found a lot. We've had, like you said earlier, we've had a lot of good Super Bowls. The last, since 2000. Um, but this one is the one that I think I will always remember. Just because it was so competitive and just great from start to finish.
Yeah.
So that's my list. I'll post the graphics after the show and let you guys vote on, and let us know. Let us know if there's any Super Bowls that you guys think we missed. And I have no problem Googling highlights of that Super Bowl. So, but yeah, that's our list. Got anything else to add, man?
Yeah. So yeah, just enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. Be talking about our reactions to it next week for sure. Like we always say, like please leave us a comment. Let us know what you want us to hear, what you want to hear, not what we want to hear. But just yeah, just let us know what you're thinking. What is your top five list?
Yeah.
It can be all time, but maybe think about
Yeah.
2000 till now. What do you guys think? What do you remember? What was special? Maybe about the ones that we mentioned. So go ahead, leave a
Mm.
comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, you have a great night.